But that can be very misleading, because then you start looking up. That's misleading. Heaven is potentially a good term, because it means spaciousness. The same thing as the Buddha said, emptiness is spaciousness. That would be my translation of sunyata, that term, is spaciousness, formless consciousness, unconditioned consciousness, beingness itself. That's the essence, and that's the realization. So they're all pointing to it's exactly the same thing, or the same no thing. So yes, of course, you encounter suffering, as the Buddha says, no matter what you do and where you go. Sooner or later, and usually sooner, it makes you suffer again. The letting go, the most important step in letting go of feelings, is to cut the link between your thinking and what you're feeling. How do you do that? You do it by being aware of your thinking and realizing that thinking is pain. It feeds the old feeling, and the narrative, whatever it is a painful narrative, and you realize that you've been keeping it alive for some years, and there's some enough awareness, you realize that it has no purpose except to make you unhappy and to perpetuate that feeling. In addition to your life situation, which exists in time, past and future, there's something more vital, and I call that your life. Now, your life situation, as I said, exists in time, but your life is now. So if your attention moves into the present moment, it's a little bit like waking up out of this dream of continuous thinking, useless thinking, not constructive thinking, useless thinking that tells you how unhappy you are. So that kind of thinking that creates an unhappy, fictitious mental entity that you think is you, useless thinking. You step out of that, which is almost like a dream of hypnotic trance of useless thinking. There is a state of consciousness possible in humans where you are fully conscious without the activity of conceptual thinking. That's also the essence, for example, of Zen, and I would suggest that it's actually the essence of all spirituality, is to find that state of consciousness in yourself where you can be alert and aware, but there's no conceptualization in your mind. It doesn't mean it stays like that for a long time. You then go back into thinking. But if you're able to access that dimension in yourself, you are no longer possessed by your thinking mind. You are no longer used by your thinking mind. You are actually able to use your mind instead of being used by your mind. Maybe it's good, maybe not. But the simple thing is that in that state of no thought, but alert presence, all these questions about self-esteem resolve themselves into nothingness because you're no longer looking for some perceived value in a conceptual sense of self, the personality, and you can sense the power that is within you, that is nothing to do with a person, and that's where your self-esteem comes from, and it's not comparative. In the normal state of consciousness, self-esteem is always comparative. That when you pray for something, in other words, when you want something, believe that you have received it. Now, what does that mean? You have to feel in this moment the fullness of life that is there when you go deep enough into the being of you. Then you feel there's the fullness of life, and you feel there is a sense of joyful aliveness, that there's a sense of power in you that you sense that is the presence in you. There is a power in that presence, and that power is there's something that you could solve almost, there's a fullness in it already.